Okay, chat, welcome in. It's good to see everyone. I guess I'll go ahead and get started here. What I wanted to do today is talk about some things. This is a series that I started on YouTube a while back called Captain's Thoughts. And during Captain's Thoughts, basically, I just talk about whatever's some subject that's on my mind, and today I decided to do it live. No pre-recording, no script, no nothing. We're just gonna shoot from the hip, and I'll cut it later, and we will get it on up to YouTube. That's why you're not hearing any music right now. Avoiding the DMCA strikes, so to speak, because they're kind of sensitive on that. But that's a whole other thing. Okay, so today's subject I actually wanted to go over was raids. Recently, we had the Root of Nightmares raid release. Well, I guess recently wouldn't be the word. This season, the Root of Nightmares raid is new. And there was a lot of controversy about this raid in particular. And one of the subjects that came up was the difficulty. A lot of players were unsatisfied with that. Now, whether you agree or disagree with that really isn't the subject. What I found interesting was that some empathizers that were justifying the raid and its layout were doing so with the concept that a lot of players, this could be their very first raid ever. And I considered that for a little while. Whether you like that or you don't, it's very likely to be true if, say for example, a player were to come in and Lightfall was their very first expansion, and they were to level up and get ready and get their power level right and be actually ready to go, then it's very likely that the only raid anyone else would be doing that they could actually find to participate in would be Root of Nightmares. Nobody's going to be doing the old raids, with certain exceptions. Things like Garden of Salvation for the Divinity Quest and Vault of Glass to farm up Vex Mythic class. Val the Disciple seems to have a warm spot in people's hearts, along with the fact that it does drop the exotic pulse rifle. Uh, the word's escaping me right now. The void one. You guys know what I'm talking about. But in that concept, it actually did kind of ring a certain amount of truth to me. Is that if you were a new player, that's probably the only raid that you'll be able to find to do. So it's not your fault that you're going into the newest raid. You simply can't build a team for the older raids because nobody else needs to do them. So it sort of introduced this thought to me, and this is something I'd been considering for a while, is talking about preparation before the raid. Raiding, first of all, let me back up. Historically, and now this is many games. This is World of Warcraft. This is, uh, lots of MMOs have similar style of raids and even larger scale raids. And at the time when I came up as a gamer, we always addressed raiding as it was a privilege. It is not something to be taken lightly, and it's very possible that someone else didn't get a spot so that you could get a spot. So you should owe it some respect. Now, given that, Destiny 2 actually combats that last part rather well in the fact that the raids are only 6 players. So it's less likely to happen because it's very easy to build another group. But that's not the point I'm actually going for today. My point is that with the respect given to the raid and the fact that what is going on and owing a little bit of what you might call reverence for the fact that you got a spot in the raid. I think the biggest thing to do for that is preparation. Now, there are certain extremes to this, but I'm going to try to outline what I think a brand new raider should be looking to get done before their first raid. Okay? So, with all that explained, let's get into it. The very first thing you ought to do is know that you can't prepare the day of. I would say, bare minimum, prepare at least 3 days prior. Now, that's the point of that is to tweak. Now, what you're going to want to do, the very first thing you're going to want to do is look for builds. Depending on what class you have, depending on what armor options and exotic weapons you have to choose from, will control the builds that are most practical for you. However, with that being said, YouTube is full of very good builds. There are creators that release a new build almost every single day, if not at least once a week. And they're pretty good. Most of the build setups are kind of loose to where you can work with almost anything, really. But with that being said, find the build that is going to work for you, okay, that you can complete. Now, from there, I would go to a little place I'm going to show you right here. Just let me get it loaded up. I would have had this loaded, but I actually didn't think I was going to show it live. But I decided against that. This is a tool that I heavily endorse. And let me get it up on screen for you. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, here you go. Now, this is called D2 Armor Picker. Now, what you would do is you would come in here, you would pick your class, you would pick out the stats that you're looking for, and also incorporate how you would make the build. That is to say, the exotic you might pick. If you don't have any, then you know, hey, that's that's okay. It can still work. You would come down here and be sure to pick your uh, subclass and your uh, fragments. The reason why is that is going to, most of them, well, I'd say about half of them, will have a bonus or a detriment to different stats. So for you to use this tool right, you're going to have to meet it for its intentions. Now, just for example's sake, I haven't actually looked at this, but I do a lot of my own building, but this will do it for you. Now, as a brood weaver, let's see, I use thread of generation, thread of finality, thread of evolution, and rebirth. Now, you don't see rebirth on here because it doesn't have any stat effects. So it doesn't actually matter for this concept. Now, this is my threadling build, so I hit the swarmers. Now, it's going to cross reference those two concepts. Now, when it does, let me reset all this. Okay, all that comes up possibility of 1755 combinations. Now, I do obviously have a lot of armor to choose from. So you may not have as much. That's not a big deal. You can work with a whole lot. Now, from here, what would you do? I would say, undoubtedly, that resilience is one of the biggest priorities. The reason why is that gives you more, you can take more hits before you die. And if you're a first time raider, and I mean this in total respect, you're gonna get hit. There's no way that you will dodge every mechanic. It's just impossible. That won't happen. Okay. Now, me, I tend to be kind of stupid. And I get hit by more stuff than I probably should. So 80 would be probably good for most people. I go all the way to 100. That way, I've got the most possible. And if I die, then I can accept that I made too many mistakes. Okay, now you can see the combinations drop to 1700. Okay, that's good. Now, other stats that are important. Since I'm on a warlock, recovery is pretty important. I won't push it all the way up as high as it can go, but let's just hit 70. Okay, that dropped us down to 1500. All right. Discipline is also very important for me because I tend to throw a lot of grenades. I'm going to say 60 for this one specifically because it's the threadling runner. Okay, now that dropped us all the way down to 584. Now, mobility is mainly a hunter stat in my opinion. However, I have seen other classes run 100 mobility. That is really more of a personal choice and something that you'll have to reflect on. Now, when it comes to intellect, I don't view it as that significant, being that we have certain things to speed up our super regeneration that don't rely on the intellect stat. So the less you're having to put in there, the more you can put in a stat that really matters to you. Okay. Now, strength, that's kind of a personal call, and it depends on your build. Now, if you're using a build that really needs you to have charged melee a lot, then you might want to roll high strength. My build goes around grenades a lot, so the discipline needs to be high. That's why it's up at 6. Now, personally, don't really care about these all that much. So I'm just going to leave them in the dirt. Now, you can see we've still got some room to improve, and we still have over 500 options. So where do we go from here? Well, you can just go up by 1 on each of the stats that you want to keep. See, that took us to 298. Now we'll go up by discipline 1. And then from here, we can go up by recovery 1 more. And see, it's got us at 26 stats, or 26 combinations, I should say, excuse me. Now, what if I wanted to push my recovery to just 100? And bam, there's only one combination of gear that can give me what I'm looking for, and that being 100 resilience, 100 recovery, and 100 discipline. So, we've got that information and pop it out right here. Now, you can, if you so choose, just screenshot or take a picture or whatever of this screen and use it to completely integrate your build manually. However, you can also utilize DIM to open the loadout and apply it. Now, it would, excuse me. Now, if, for example's sake, if these gear pieces were not already masterworked, it would actually show me the masterworking cost. So that is good to use as well. Now, like I said, you should do this a few days before you're actually ready to raid. That's probably the best path to take as far as getting ready for the raid. Oh, whoops. There we go. Now that you've got all of that out of the way, you kind of know the build you're going for. Now you need to look at weapons. Now, from here, what you're looking for is something that works with what you've already got. Now, for example's sake, this is a strand build. Okay. I need as many threadlings as possible. Okay. So I've got a auto rifle with hatchling on, and I've got a machine gun with hatchling on. Now, this middle weapon right here, there is no strand weapons that go in the energy slot. So there's nothing really I can put there to help the situation. But what I can do is slap on a good special. Now, now that you've got that, it's time to practice. Now, there's lots of good places to practice, and you need to practice several things. Okay? Now, let me show you a few of my favorites. For your casual stuff and getting a general feel of it, I almost always come to the Cosmodrome. This section up here by the Skywatch, there's a variety of enemies, and normally it's not too crowded. Now, you could go different places, sure, but I like that area because it's not really all that difficult, and at the same time, you can get some mild practice in, if that makes sense. Now, one I like to do for ad clearing, one of my favorite spot is right here, Sorrow's Harbor. You come up here and you go to the Altars of Sorrow public event. Now, when you go there, there's going to be a basically endless stream of red bar enemies. This is a great opportunity to practice your ad clearing techniques. How do you transition from using your grenade to your weapon to reloading and just being comfortable while utilizing all your different tools? I think it's a great area for that. Of course, there are certain things that about this area in particular that are less difficult than a lot of places. But what I really like about it is that it gives you the opportunity to make mistakes without glorious consequences. Okay. Other than that, if you want practice with your heavy weapon, I heavily recommend going into Dares of Eternity. This is from the 30th anniversary pack. If you've got it, you can go in there, and if you get through the first obstacle course properly, you get a buff called Star Horse's Favor that is unlimited heavy ammunition. At that time, you'll be able to just absolutely unload your heavy, and it's going to constantly give you more ammunition. So it's a great way to get practice with that. Other than that, there are other options, but those are probably my personal favorites. Now, with that being said, get you a little practice. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Most issues will make themselves obvious very quickly. And it could be skill issue, it could be simply a build problem, or it could be that maybe you need a different type of arsenal than what you picked. There's a lot of different things that could need adjustment. Now that you've got your build, you've got yourself together, you are more or less ready, sort of. At this point, what you'll want to do is talk to the raid leader. Most groups will call this the Sherpa. The Sherpa is a title uh, that the Destiny community adopted from the concept where the old man would lead you through the mountains. He was your guide, he was your seasoned veteran, and he was the guy that knew where to go and what to do. Now, with that said, talk to them and get their perspective. Now, let me see. I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Okay. One thing you will particularly want to ask your Sherpa is about champions. Some normal raids do have champions at different intervals. Now, with that being said, you may need to adjust your loadout slightly to compensate for the fact that these champions are present. Now, it will depend largely on the artifact of the season, so I don't really want to give any specific advice on that, given that that is in constant change. Okay, so be prepared for that. Now, the next thing I actually want to read to you guys is some basic rules of gunfighting. Now, the source here is the glorious United States Marine Corps. Now, while they've got a great plan, it doesn't necessarily apply to everything that we do in the game because the game isn't reality. However, I think a lot of them do apply if you add some perspective to it. So, here are the 13 rules for gunfighting according to United States Marine Corps. Be courteous to everyone, friendly to none. This is absolutely true. You can, if you're with a raid group, you can be courteous to absolutely everyone. Uh, but that don't mean you have to be their friend. Okay? Decide to be aggressive enough quickly enough. That is a good one. A lot of people, one of the biggest things that has actually been noted about new players is when you stun a champion or an elite is vulnerable, you need to trigger that killer instinct and go in. You've got to get that kill then. You're not trying to win a marathon. You need to win a race when it comes to those guys. So, aggressive enough, quickly enough. Number three, have a plan. There will always be a plan. There will always be a strategy. There will always be a setup. Know that plan. Number four, and God knows this is true, have a backup plan because the first one probably won't work. Now, this one will loosely pertain to you. Okay? As the brand new raider, you're not expected to make big plays. Okay? That is really more towards the senior raiders and the Sherpa. They have a backup plan in their mind. Now, you will probably see it and just know that sometimes plans change. That is a thing that happens, and there's absolutely nothing that any of us can do about that. We cannot we cannot control everything. Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet. This one sort of does apply. There will be certain moments when your team makes a mistake that could kill you. One of the most glorious examples of this is Atheon in Vault of Glass. Uh, I cannot remember the name of the mechanic. It'll come to me. But there is a mechanic where that boss entombs one raid member in a big bubble and locks them down to where they can't move. Now, if that raid member is close to other raid members, they will also be entombed. And when that happens, they can't do anything. So somebody outside the bubble has to break the bubble. Well, if you're all standing together and you're all in the bubble, nobody breaks the bubble, everybody dies. So, to this, have a plan to kill everyone you meet. To me, what that means is if somebody on your team doesn't do their job and messes up, it is your job to get out of the way and avoid being collateral damage. Another great example, I don't know why I didn't think of this one first. In the fight in King's Fall, there's a boss called Golgoroth. He does a debuff called Explosive Light. When one of the raid members gets that, they are going to blow up and kill everyone around them. This comes at a set period of time, and if you know it's supposed to be out and you don't see anyone moving, it may be time to get away from the pack and make sure you don't die. Now, from here, we're going to have to get a little creative with the rules. Number 6, do not attend a gunfight with a handgun whose caliber does not start with a 4. Now, that really doesn't apply here to Destiny per se, so I kind of adjusted it. Now, while there are different types of weapons in all different slots, mainly your first two is what I'm focusing on with this statement. You have special and then you have primary. Special has a limited amount of ammunition and it does increased damage. So that is something you want to be aware of. If you can, if your loadout will allow you to do so, at least carry one special. This loadout I'm using here is actually a good example. I've got my primary. My primary will always have ammo. It will never run out. And then I've got my special. My special is capable of intense damage to a large number of enemies very quickly. Now, there are also other options like a shotgun. A shotgun is a great option for doing intense damage to one target very quickly. This is one of those things that you just kind of get used to. So, my advice on this rule specifically is to carry one special. Now, there are experienced raiders out there who are very talented and can use two specials and get away with it and manage their ammunition. But bear in mind, I made this video, this recording is specific to new raiders and less experienced raiders. Okay? Now, rule number 7, anything worth shooting is worth shooting twice. Ammo is cheap, your life is expensive. This is 1,000% accurate. In fact, even Zombieland said it. In the moments you're not sure if your target is dead, shoot again. Okay? Some things, one thing that some new raiders fail to realize is that during a boss encounter, there is a limited number of revives. Each player can only revive one player during the fight. So that means from assuming you have a full team and everyone's alive, from the moment you start the fight, you have 6 revives that you can use. And if someone dies and there's no revive available, there's only about a 2-minute timer before the boss wipes the entire group anyway. So, your life, your survivability is very valuable. That is going back to something else I said about having 100 resilience, because your life is one of the most important parts. You have to be alive to do any damage. Okay? Rule number 8, move away from your attacker. Distance is your friend. Lateral and diagonal preferred. Now, for this, let me see if I can just sort of get you like a quick demonstration, more or less. There's normally some falling up here somewhere. Okay. All right. Let me just get his attention. Okay, those are my attackers. That's lateral. Okay, you notice how all those bullets keep missing? There's 3 of them shooting at me and I'm doing nothing. I'm just moving. Now, diagonal means you change the distance and the angle. So think of it like a figure 8 or an infinity sign. You notice how they're not hitting me? Now, it's true they've gotten a few hits on me, but I would say 80% or more of their shots have missed. And I can just do this for quite a while, if necessary. This actually gives me a good vantage to go into rule number 9. Use cover or concealment as much as possible. Now, if I'm fighting something over here, and I've got that in between me and my enemies, they really can't hurt me, can they? And see, they move, so I move. I keep that box in between us, and we're good. Flank your adversary when possible. Protect yours. Now, what does that mean? If they're behind me, I'm in a bad place, and I need to move. Always keep your enemy in front of you if possible. Now, if you're in a situation where you absolutely must turn your back, you need to be running, bobbing, weaving, jumping, sliding, whatever. Do not run in a straight line. That is almost a guaranteed death. Now, the part about flanking, if I get the opportunity to approach them at an angle where they can't see me coming, that is preferable. All right. Number 11, always cheat, always win. The only unfair fight is the one you lose. This relates to something that is somewhat frowned upon. Now, in the raiding community, there are things that we call cheeses. It's where someone somewhere out in the world found a way around the basic mechanic of the fight, and we're cheesing it. Now, while you, as the new raider, learning it for the first time, I heavily endorse learning the right way. Okay. Now, with that being said, if your senior raiders or your Sherpa introduce it, go with the flow. Because if they have introduced it, then they're frustrated and they just want to get through it. And trust me, they will be much more likely to take you a second time if their first time wasn't that bad. Rule number 12, in 10 years, nobody will remember the details of caliber, stance, or tactics. They will only remember who lived. I got a great example for this. Day 1 of Root of Nightmares, there were these launchers that you're intended to use for the second fight. The second encounter, I should say. Those things were a little glitchy. and continuously killed several of us. So we said to hell with it, and we started shatter skating and well skating across instead of actually using bows. In the end, we got through the encounter. We did it our way, not the intended way. But with that being said, I still got the emblem and I got my challenge clear. So results results justify the means, in my opinion. Now, number 13, and this is enormous, guys, really. If you are not shooting, you should be communicating. Now, let me let me differentiate something very clearly. Okay. All right, let's pretend this guy's a little weak, but let's pretend. Okay, he's got me at critical health, just for example's sake. I'm down over here. Okay, I'm not dead, but I can't fight anymore. I can't risk stepping out. Okay, I need to be telling them he is right here in front of me. I need help. Okay, let's say, let's pretend, okay, that he actually kills me. And here I am. I'm dead, which he may actually do here in a minute if I give him long enough. I don't need to be saying, wow, that guy's really tall. His weapon is super blue. You guys see how tall that tree is? That is not helpful. What is helpful is I have a yellow bar captain on me. He is not a champion. He is doing arc damage, and I am down. Those kind of things are actually informative. That tells the senior raters what they're looking for. So from there, they know what they're doing. That is useful information. That is different than ranting and raving, oh, shucky darn, he shot me right in the jaw. Yes, everyone can get emotional when you're in an intense gunfight. Yes, that 1000% happens. Hell, I've done it. I'm not claiming to be better than anybody here. All I'm saying is you need to understand the concept that communication is all about value. If you're contributing value to the team, to the knowledge, then you're doing it right. Another example, okay? And this is one, this actually does happen. This is just the quickest way I know to show it. Okay? Uh-oh, I died. What do I need to tell my team right now? I need to tell them I fell off. Okay? What that tells them is that over here, there is not a elite or a champion that killed me. It was an environmental issue. Now, what's something else you can tell them? You can tell them there are no enemies near me. My revive is safe. Now, if you can't tell, let's say, let's say for example's sake, that I was right here when I died, right? I can't really tell if my revive is safe or not. I can't really see. There's a lot going on, whatever. And see right there, lots of people. If you can actually see and be able to tell your team, yeah, my revive is safe, or no, my revive is not, then that is contributory information. That helps. Okay, so at this point, you are actually prepared for the day of the raid. Now, what you would do from here is number one, triple check the time that the raid is for. It is very often that raiders are in different time zones. So, know what time zone the group is and know when they need you to be there. Okay? I've also seen it where some people don't realize this. The date can be different. Whereas on the other side of the world, they're a little bit ahead of America. So they may see something as the following day, not the day that it is for us. So it's very important to double and triple check the date and the time and make sure you are there. Now, about an hour before the raid, here's what you want to do. Okay. Number one, eat something, drink something, take a bathroom break, walk your dog, take any medication you need to take, all that. Okay. Get that done. That way, you don't have to stop in the middle of the raid to go do stuff. All right. Because that really won't be very appreciated by people that set aside time to help you. Okay. Now, with that being said, about 10 minutes before the raid is actually supposed to start, you should be in orbit, ready to join the team or ready for the invite. This should be what you're looking at 10 minutes before the raid time. Now, if you see your Sherpa is already online, which sometimes they will be, and they're just chilling in orbit, join their fire team. Talk to them. Get any last minute questions out of the way. Okay? And from there, it really depends on the Sherpa, where you go and what you do. I would say relax, have fun, and listen to your Sherpa. Okay. All that being said, I want to take a second to welcome in the new Raiders. I wish you all the luck and fun of raiding, and I hope you enjoy raiding. It is one of the best experiences of Destiny 2. So, thank you for enjoying Captain's Thoughts, and y'all have a wonderful day.